MLBThisWeek, the MLB show. Rich Baxter and Gary Mack. Hello, everyone. My name is Rich Baxter.
And I'm Gary.
How you doing, Gary? We're doing this podcast under a bit of rough circumstances. We're both facing a blizzard coming up the East Coast tomorrow.
Yeah, they're talking about 18 inches to 24 inches, so I'm not real happy about that, Rich. Not a big fan of the snow, and we're both getting over colds, I guess it is, or some kind of thing. You can hear my voice is still a little raspy and nasally, but we missed last week and wanted to get back on the wagon this week.
That's for sure. Yeah, I had to cancel out at the last minute last week. Thought I'd be a whole lot better this week, but you know how those winter colds hold you up sometimes. I'm still under the feelings of this cold, but we're going to do our best to bring a good podcast for our listeners out there, and I want to thank everybody for stopping by our Google Plus page. Over 15,000 hits so far, and if you think about it, if you have a Google Plus account, circle us. Make us one of your friends on your list of Google Plus. You can get our latest announcements there about our show, our latest shows that we're doing when we're doing it live. You can also watch us over at our website, MLBThisWeek.com.
Yeah, that's the place to be, and you want to catch the audio, you can catch the audio at MLBThisWeek.podomatic.com or on iTunes or at BaseballTalkRadio.com, the home of great baseball talk shows.
Yeah, we also have another provider for our audio podcast, Stitcher Radio, one of my favorite apps for listening to podcasts and radio. Go over to Stitcher Radio, search out MLB This Week. We also have a page that you can link to those sites, including iTunes, right on our website at MLBThisWeek.com. Well, Gary, we had a couple of good weeks of off-season moves going on around the world of baseball, and I figured maybe tonight we'll spend a few minutes talking about some of those moves and who really benefited the most out of the moves so far.
Yeah, lots of things going on, Rich. It's almost hard to imagine that we're less than 35 days away, probably around 30, or maybe even less now, till spring training, and a lot of teams, and I think one of the big winners has to be the San Diego Padres. They added some power and pitching, and they've been making all kinds of moves, and they look like they're going to be, some contention there in the National League West.
Yeah, it seems like they're, after many years of not doing much, they're making some moves, and maybe they even have one or two moves that we're not aware of yet. I know they had talked about possibly getting Cole Hamels from the Phillies out there, and that would really be to their benefit. They could give the Dodgers and the Giants a good run for their money, possibly if they added that one more piece to the puzzle. I think they're probably that one piece shy still, but yeah, as you said, the Padres making a move. And, of course, the biggest signing in the offseason so far has been Max Scherzer. He's come over from the Detroit Tigers. He's come on to the Washington Nationals in the NL East, and that instantly made the Nationals a front runner.
Well, yes, it did, and they were already, a good team already, so us being National League East guys, not too happy with that move, but you got to still go out and play the games, and anything could happen. And the Mets were pretty well dominated last year by the Nationals, so maybe this year it'll come around the other way, and maybe they'll avoid Scherzer or, sometimes the signing like that, though, can cause other problems in the team. I know they're talking about maybe the possibility of trading Strasburg or trading Zimmerman, and who knows, that if they move either one of those guys, that could weaken that team some, not much, but it could weaken their pitching staff, and and don't forget the rest of the pitching staff has to duplicate what they did last year, and that's always a difficult thing is from year to year. They're a good pitching staff, and but whether they can duplicate what they did, if everybody can stay healthy, there's still a lot of ifs. People say that well, these guys are the front runners. There's not much question to that, but a lot of teams have ifs. I'd say every team has an if, because every team, if they stay healthy, if they, everybody plays up to par. You can have the best team in the world, and if they don't stay healthy, or they don't stay up to par, they're not going to win. It's just that simple. So, still a lot of ifs, and there's a lot of ifs around baseball, but they definitely didn't hurt themselves. Let's put it that way. And there's still talk that they're trying to move Ian Desmond, their shortstop, and we'll see where that goes. The National League, really a lot of trading going on. The Dodgers improved themselves with a couple of guys from your team. Jimmy Rollins, the main guy there. And, the Cardinals made some moves. So everybody's making some moves. We'll see where it all shakes out once the season starts.
Yeah, and as we talked about at the beginning of the show, we're waiting for a blizzard here on the East Coast, and one of the biggest areas that are going to get hit is Boston. West of Boston, they're looking for 2 feet of snow or more, up to 36 inches, but they also picked up 2 of the top 5 signings so far in the offseason, and Pablo Sandoval from the Giants and Hanley Ramirez from the Dodgers. So the Red Sox weren't laying around this offseason. They really went out and tried to make their team better, and I think they really did. They shored up that offense and their infield incredibly in just a couple of moves.
And they may not be done either, Rich. They may be talk is that they're looking for a frontline pitcher or 2. So there's still going to be moves to be made. There's always moves to be made up to July, of course. But I think there'll be some moves before spring training or during spring training as teams really sort out more what they have. Now it's hard to tell because everybody's got all of these, they got their wish list, and they completed, some of the teams completed what they got. But now you got to get into spring training and sort it all out and see what goes where. And, it's like the Red Sox are talking about putting Ramirez out in left field, and we'll have to see how that works out in spring training and stuff. And still, he may have a good spring training, but when you get to the monster there, that's a completely different thing. So it's going to be an interesting time, and we'll see. Look at the job the White Sox and the Cubs did, too, so you can't count them out.
Yeah, a lot of teams making some big moves, and a lot of big-name free agents still available. Tops on the list, I guess you'd have to say James Shields still available. Josh Beckett, he's on top of the list. Richie Weeks, Ryan Dempster, Chad Billingsley still available. And also Brian Wilson, some relief pitching there. And I've heard that the Phillies were going to move their top reliever over to the Milwaukee Brewers, but it looks like Jonathan Papelbon for now will remain a Philly.
Wow, I did not hear that, but that's interesting. The Brewers the last couple of years had what's his name, Francisco Rodriguez out there, and I guess he's a free agent again.
Yeah.
So maybe they're trying to make that deal for Papelbon, but I think with the year that K-Rod had for them the last couple of years, maybe they'd be better just spending that money and bringing him back instead of paying somebody else. But you don't know what else they got up their sleeves. So.
Yeah, so far they haven't done that. So, and rumors were that it was a very hot rumor in the Philadelphia area that Papelbon would be moved. In the last day or so, though, that has cooled off. And it appears that was more talk, but yeah, a lot of movement out there, a lot of players switching up, teams getting better, some teams not making as many moves. The Phillies, the Mets, they sort of stayed out of the limelight. They're more into keeping with what they got almost, or even shedding some of the players in the Phillies side there. But we'll have to see how these teams even shake out into the spring training season. As you said, Gary, that games have to be played between the lines, or it's not played just on paper. So that's the great thing about baseball.
And you know, Rich, there was a lot of free agent pitchers, fairly decent names, as you mentioned, a bunch of them. But you know, the most being Lester and Scherzer and Shields now, and I think a lot. The Phillies may be looking to move Hamels. The Mets are looking to move some lesser talent pitchers, such as a Dylan G or you know, along that lines. And I think that once these Shields goes, and because if you remember back to the winter meetings, there was no movement at all, and then once Lester signed, the dam broke. Everybody started wheeling and dealing all over the place, and I think it's going to be a similar thing with our teams. They just picked a bad year, I guess, to start moving, trying to want to move pitchers, and with these guys available, and so 2 out of the big 3, if you would, are gone. So we'll see where it goes from there. I think once Shields goes, then the losers of the Shields sweepstakes will start sniffing around Philly or the Mets or whoever else who may have some pitching available. And you know, it could be teams like Boston, San Francisco. I know they just signed Vogelsong, but I think they're going to be looking for some more pitching. You know, teams like that, they'll be St. Louis, they were looking at Scherzer for a while there, so they may be looking to shore up even the back end of their rotation or the front of their rotation. So I think once Shields goes, we'll see some more movement.
Very cool. And it looks like Santa has brought you some new podcasting equipment there. What are you podcasting with here on your microphone here? What brand is that?
Well, I have a new Blue Yeti Pro microphone that is a USB microphone, but it's also an XLR, and I'm using it through my mixer. So I'm using it as an XLR microphone, but you can use it if somebody's starting out and they're looking for something. You can use it also as a USB mic. The good part about that is, you know, a lot of people start and they want to use a USB mic, and there are some fine USB mics out there. But if you expand your podcast and wanted to bring in interviews and stuff, and you need to go to a mixer, it's literally impossible with a USB. There's probably ways you can work it, but the best way is to have a mixer and bring everybody in on a separate channel. And the beauty of this is you can use it as a USB to start with, but then if you decide to go with a mixer, you can also continue to use this microphone. And it's a nice microphone. It's got a great sound, and it was a nice gift. So, you know, that's it. Same old headphones and same everything else. New Met hat, but
Very nice. And I wanted to remind our listeners they could check out all of our podcast gear that we use. We're going to have to add that one to the list on our podcast gear page, which is also on the MLB This Week podcast. You can check out the mixer that Gary uses. It's a PV mixer. Some of the webcams that we use are online there. You can purchase it right through the link, and it will actually help the podcast. And I got to say, Gary, nobody has made the purchase through one of these links yet. So one of our listeners out there could become the first.
Okay. Yeah, good luck.
Thanks for supporting us. And that's a great sounding mic there, Gary. And you have another top story from this week in the MLB. Sad news on this one.
Well, the Yankees prospect Beaton or the Ernie Banks? Well, I would go with the Ernie Banks on this one. Ernie Banks, Mr. Cub, passed away just the other day, and of course, um, Ernie was the Chicago Cubs for years, and he's famous for that saying, "Let's play two. It's a beautiful day. Let's play two." Love the game of baseball. Great ambassador for the game of baseball, and he will be missed by all of baseball. Hall of Famer. Never played in the World Series. Played his whole career with the Cubbies, and started out as a shortstop, transferred over to end his career as a first baseman, and over 500 home runs. Just a great ambassador to the game, and he'll be missed.
Yes, he will be, and they're going to be placing a statue of Ernie Banks from the Wrigley Field statue. It's going to be in Daly Plaza this week in Chicago from Wednesday through Saturday, allowing fans to honor and remember the Hall of Famer. So, yeah, Ernie Banks. Of course, he came through a little after my time in baseball. I don't remember seeing Ernie Banks at all play, but I know the name. I've heard the name over the years, and, of course, always associated with the Cubbies. And, yeah, sad time for baseball, and one of the greats of the game passing away.
And unfortunately, as we get older, those guys are older, and you're gonna hear this a lot, and it is sad. And we in New York, we still miss Ralph Kiner on the broadcast. He's passed a year or so ago now, and it's just another piece of your youth. I did see Ernie Banks play in the tail end of his career, and he still showed some of that magic that he had. Thin guy, but boy, could he whip the bat and hit home runs. He was an excellent ball player, and turned, like I said, came up as a shortstop, and eventually moved to first base, and just a terrific guy and a good ambassador to the game.
Yeah, that's sad news out of Chicago, but tried to bring a screenshot of that up here, but it doesn't seem like it's working too well. So, and that's something with the Google Hangouts that we do these video podcasts with. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I had some pictures of Ernie Banks to share, but yeah, it's a shame. Hall of Famer Ernie Banks passing away at 83. Lived a long life, but he'll still be watching down on those Cubbies.
And Rich, I hear Mr. Peter Rose is going to be taking part in the All-Star game this year, huh?
Yeah, Pete Rose going to be taking part in the festivities 2015 All-Star game coming to Cincinnati. Still not revealed what exactly he'll be doing, but it will be on field and officially sanctioned by the MLB. That's good news for him. And just in an interview in the past couple of weeks after this news has been announced, it was pretty humorous that he was asked who he would vote for the Hall of Fame. Of course, with the Hall of Fame vote just passing. And he said he would elect the Rocket, Roger Clemens, and Barry Bonds in there. So apparently Pete Rose going full throttle, pushing aside the possible steroid issues that some of these players have been swirled around with, and pushing that aside and saying he would just elect them into the Hall of Fame anyway.
I think it's going to happen. I mean, we discussed this before. I think that they're going to get in. We don't know who else took it in that era. So to keep them out at this point, I think is kind of a exercise in futility. Let them go in. I think everybody that's a baseball fan knows that they're going in under maybe suspicious circumstances. But, a lot of these guys, you're talking about a Clemens, and there's no guy that I can't stand more than Roger Clemens. But Was he a Hall of Fame player before the alleged steroid use? He was on that track. He was definitely headed there. So, was Barry Bonds a Hall of Fame a player before he went on the juice? He was headed that way. So I heard today somebody was talking about Mark McGwire, and they said, oh, when he broke Maris's record, he looked like a muscle builder, but the announcer had a good point and said that he hit. Now I didn't check this out, but he hit 49 homers his first rookie year, and he was thin, and the guy said, oh, he was half the person then on his trading cards, but. I mean, we don't know who did it. We don't know who did what. And let's face it, everybody fills out as they get older. So I just think that it's time to. I think this is an exercise by the baseball writers to prove that they have. This is the only power that they have, and I think. I think they're exercising that power and being a little childish about it at this point in time. But I gotta agree with Pete to a certain extent. I think these guys. He hit the home runs, whether he was juiced or not. We don't. How do we know that the pitcher throwing the ball wasn't juiced? Clemens, the same thing. I think he did it to extend his career, but. Then why did we let Nolan Ryan in? Because there's rumors that he did it. It's just a lot of things, and as far as Pete Rose goes, he's the hit leader. He should be in there. Did he cheat? No. Did he bet on baseball? Yes. But did he bet against his team? I don't think there's any evidence that he bet against his team. So if he's and one of the arguments was, well, he bet on his team and he was the manager so he could affect the outcome of the game. But if he bet on his team, how is he affecting the outcome? He wants to win anyway. So anything he does, whether he bet or not, he wants to win. So if he's doing stuff to affect the outcome, he's doing stuff to win the game, which is his job, or which was his job. So I think Pete Rose should be in too.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Of course, in the last couple of days, we had a new MLB commissioner. The long-standing commissioner, Bud Selig, has retired, and now we have a new one in place. Name is Mr. Manfred, and he's got some top priorities to take care of in baseball, Gary, and number one, he said he needs to attract more fans, youthful fans that may have left the game for other endeavors, whether it be video games or what have you, but a lot of the America's youth have sort of closed the door on baseball, and that was one of his top priorities in trying to get more youth interested in the game of baseball, amongst other things. But he also has, the pace of play is one of his top priorities. He wants to try to move along the games. How he will accomplish that, I'm not quite sure yet, but that was one of the items that he brought up in the first couple of weeks when he was taking over for Mr. Selig. So some high priorities there for the new commish.
Well, yes, they are. And as far as the pace of the game, I know they're going to try out the clock. I'm not crazy about the idea because, baseball always was a game that moved at its own pace. And to try to, increase the pace of the game. They want to increase the pace of the game, get rid of half the commercials when the game's on television. That'll pick up the pace of the game. Instead of that minute and a half, 2 minutes between every half inning, just do a 15-second commercial and get back and let's get going. That's one thing they could do. And and not sell the rights to everything. Call to the bullpen that's brought to you by I don't know, Vonage or something. Let's not. That'll save time because you don't have to read all of that stuff all the time.
Yeah. Remember when they used to bring the bullpen cart out when they had a relief pitcher? Bring that back.
Right.
Them down and out to the mound. There's a lot of things they could do, but I don't think having a time clock on a batter or something like that is the way to go.
Yeah, or make the batter stay in the batter's box. He's got to have 1 foot in. He can step 1 foot out, but he's got to have 1 foot in, and let him. We don't need all of these, these dances that these guys do between pitches with the gloves and the thing and this and that. Let's get rid of that. I'm okay with that. But it's almost like the game of golf now. They want to increase the pace to the public, and so you go, you pay your money, and then some guy's pushing you along, rushing you through. Well, I paid my money. I want to enjoy my Saturday on the golf course. I don't want to get done in an hour and a half so I can go home again. And the whole idea is to take 3 hours or 4 hours, so I don't have to go home and cut the lawn or whatever. And they're increasing that, and it kind of. And then they turn around and they say, well, people aren't turning out to play golf. Well, that could be part of the reason. You're trying to shove them through, and it's not as relaxing as it could be. And the same thing is for baseball. Yeah, we all like quick games, but if you go to a game once a year, which is going to get into my other point, because you can't afford it, do you want to get there and be rushed out an hour and a half? I certainly don't. I don't want to sit down at a game and feel like, oh, I just sat down and it's the 8th inning already. I want to enjoy the game. It's summertime. It's hopefully it's a nice day or night or whenever you go.
Yeah.
And I think
more time to have a beer.
That's right.
Overpriced concessions.
There you go. And then the concessions will be complaining. And as far as bringing more people into the game, I think. Part of the big problem with that, Rich, is the cost. You can't. When we were kids, I used to hop on a subway and for $1.30, get a grandstand seat. Up on the top, but that's where all of us started watching ball games. And now that same seat's probably like $30, so a kid can't hop on the subway when he's 15 or even a little, earlier. Well, I don't know. It's a different world now. So, but you can't just on a spur of the moment like it used to be, where you could just say, or we'd save our milk containers up and go to a specific game that was listed on there for nothing. You hand in your milk containers and you went. They don't do things like that. They have to get back to that. They have to reach more to the community. I know it's a lot more work, but you see it with these minor league teams. They reach out to their communities, and baseball has, the majors have a bigger area to cover, but they have to try. They have to try to reach out to a number of the neighboring communities and get kids interested in the game again. And I was watching last night. I don't know if you saw it, the NHL All-Star Game, and they had their skills contest, which is sort of like the home run derby, but it was very interesting. It was not like the home run derby that's boring. This was very interesting. Now, I don't think MLB tried it once. They did the skills thing, and somebody got hurt in a throwing competition, and they seemed to get rid of that. But, maybe there's other things that they can take from that and try to do. Why not have an all-star skills thing where you got to hit the ball to all the fields, hit it to left, center, right, like that. And put point totals or something up. Maybe make things that look almost like video games and try to incorporate it into some sort of skills competition.
Yeah, That would be a wave of the future for sure.
Yeah, they have to do some more modern things, but I think they have to start by lowering the ticket prices so fathers and mothers can take their kids to the games. And
That's
that's where you grow your fans from.
that's a good point. Well, we'll have to see what, if any, of these accomplishments he's able to do. Of course, he just took over the office, so he's facing some interesting tasks. And of course, we have instant replay. That hasn't been settled 100% yet, although a lot of people really enjoyed it the first year that it was in existence. So Rob Manfred is now on the job, and season starts in just about 12 weeks now. Spring training, as you said, Gary, starts up in about 31 days from tonight, and we're still thinking about this snow, but we have another story here. Of course, Ted Lilly, the ex-Cub and New York Yankee and LA Dodger pitcher for 13 years in the big leagues, and he ran into some trouble in the last couple of days here. It's been reported that back in March, he had some damage to an RV that he owned. March 19th, he went in for an estimate to fix this RV. The estimate was $4,600. Now, here's a guy that's made, I believe, $80 million over the course of his career, or gross money. But he actually filed a false insurance claim. He went to an insurance company after he got the claim from the body shop to fix this RV of his, and of course you can't do that. You can't insure something that's already damaged. So Ted Lilly facing a charge in California, 3 felony charges related to insurance fraud. So word to the wise out there, don't try this. Not a good idea.
Didn't he have it insured originally? No, and
I would imagine maybe he didn't. Yeah, the story goes around a damaged recreational vehicle that he owned. Possibly it wasn't insured. I'm not quite sure as to the whole story, but after the fact of getting an insurance quote, of course, if anybody knows the way automobile body shops work, they're all hooked up practically with the DMVs now. You take your car there, everybody and his brother knows you've been there, and then he files for an insurance claim a couple weeks later with a company based upon this old damage. So not a good way to start out the year for Ted Lilly.
no, not at all. And like you said, we had a little incident with my daughter's old car. She got hit when she was parked, and we took it to our insurance company. Told us where to go. We took it to the place. It was the easiest what can I call it? Arrangement that we ever had. I mean,
Yeah.
everything was taken care of. So they had a guy right in the shop there, and it was just so easy. We were just so pleased that we never had anything that simple before.
Yeah,
So
a lot of auto body insurance companies work with the auto body shops. So, they have certain shops that they're friendly with. They trust their service. They're on the up and up, whatever. They'll refer business to them, and in hand, they take good care of the customer. So, yeah, you had a good experience with that, and word to the wise, don't try to defraud insurance companies because it's too easy for them to find out anymore.
that's right. Everything's computerized and everything else. So just take your lumps and pay your insurance or whatever, or pay for the, as you said, he made $80 million, $4,600. He probably could just write out a check, or it's no big deal for him. But
Well, this edition here of MLB This Week, Gary, is coming to a quick close. You have a final story for tonight's show.
Well, Rich, just one quickie. We were just talking about ticket prices, and to show you how crazy things have gotten in a way, the Milwaukee Brewers have unveiled a special $1,000 ticket. That's an investment in the club's future. It's called a timeless ticket. It's made of brass. It's personalized, and it's limited to 1,000 fans, but those aren't the most important benefits. It allows the ticket owner to go to any future game of their choosing. Now, that could be a opening day. It could be the seventh game of a World Series, providing, of course, that the Brewers get into the World Series. Plus, you can go to there's vouchers to attend 9 additional Brewers regular season games, and it's available for all time apparently. But again, $1,000 for a ticket that you may never use. You could use the 9 games during the year, but it's that one World Series or opening day, of course, you can go to. But do you want to pay $1,000 for an opening day ticket? So I guess the teams are trying to be creative and make some money, and but just an example of ticket prices that seem a little ridiculous as we go along.
Yeah, and as you said, that's one of the best ways to make it more affordable for the family. Take your kids, a couple of friends, then they become bitten by the baseball bug. And as you said, the average family, it's not affordable anymore. And a lot of the younger families are dropping their cable subscription, so they don't even see it on TV because they don't have TV.
Right.
A lot of the younger parents are now finding it necessary to just drop their cable subscriptions for whatever reason. But that'll be baseball's tasks at hand, and we hope everybody enjoyed this edition of MLB This Week. I know Gary and I love to bring it to you, and stay tuned. We're going to have a Patreon page where you can actually sponsor our podcast by giving $1 or $2 a month. You could support this show. So we'll be announcing the site where you can go and do that if you'd like. And Gary and I will be glad to put all of the proceeds back into the show. We're not going to be going out and buying Porsches or anything because probably won't be that much money. But we're going to reinvest into the show to bring you a better show if that's possible. So, Gary, it's been another great show, and enjoyed talking with you about baseball, and already looking forward to next week's show.
Can't wait, Rich. Talk to you then.